Hello everyone, Alien Volt here, and let's talk about Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Alright, so Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Now, this was a game I definitely pre-ordered. I'm a huge Assassin's Creed fan. I've played them since the very first Assassin's Creed when it was released. I really enjoy the games. It seems like with every game that they put out, there's always improvements to the game. Now, some people may not like the newer Assassin's Creeds. Me, I love them. I think visually they look amazing. As far as the animations go and the gameplay, I think it's more fluid. I think the combat system's more fluid. I really enjoy it a lot. Now, there aren't many changes in Syndicate from Unity. Unity was an amazing game. It was really beautiful and fun to play when they fixed it. Of course, it took them 6 months to fix it, so you know there's a lot of negative reviews about it due to the glitches and errors, and just the game was just a broken mess to begin with. But it did a lot of things right, and it really brought Assassin's Creed into the next generation, and it did it well. I mean, Unity was probably one of my favorite Assassin's Creed games by far, because of everything that it changed and the things that it offered, including co-op, which if you've never played co-op with Assassin's Creed, it really brings the brotherhood feeling alive. And although it wasn't perfect, it didn't have things like voice communications or even typing to your teammates, so there was no real communication. You just had to know that they knew the objectives and you knew the objectives, and you'd work together somewhat. I mean, different styles are different styles. You may want to go in and clear it stealthy, and the other person may want to come in and just, well, destroy things. And that was a problem. Now, with Syndicate, they took out co-op. They left it out. I don't know why. I think it was a huge mistake. That was probably one of my favorite parts about Unity, and I was really looking forward to Syndicate. In fact, I bought it for myself and my 3 kids so we could all play co-op through the game. So then I pre-ordered 4 copies for me and my 3 boys to play, and then along the line, before the game releases, they announce they're not going to do co-op. They're just going to focus on single player. And it's like, what the fuck? Now, I love Assassin's Creed games, but I have 100 hours more in Unity than I have in any other Assassin's Creed. And that says a lot, because that 100 hours was purely co-op experience, just playing with my son Connor, or Monster Connor is his YouTube name, but we just played together and we had a blast. So when Syndicate came out, I went ahead and I bought it for my other 2 kids, who aren't as big as Assassin's Creed fans as me and Connor are, but they wanted to play with us because they saw us having such a great time. So then when the game actually canceled it, we ended up not playing it. It just, I mean, they didn't even finish the game. I, of course, finished the game and got all the achievements and everything and all the unlocks because I love the game for the game. But they're not as much into the game as they are playing co-op and multiplayer games, because they really enjoy them. And once they killed that aspect of the game, they didn't even finish it. So with the next Assassin's Creed coming out, if it doesn't offer co-op, then they won't even get it.
Let's go.
So right now I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that the next Assassin's Creed is going to bring back, reintroduce co-op, because it was a big part of the game for Unity, and it was definitely a game changer. Now, like I said, it had its problems, but it was my favorite innovation for the series, and they did away with it. Now, getting into Syndicate, Syndicate does something totally different, where now you get to balance the game between 2 characters. Now, when you start out, you're going to be introduced to the different territories of the London map. And London is gorgeous. I mean, it looks beautiful. Every bit as good as Paris, if not better. Now, when you're playing, you're going to get to play as either Jacob or Evie Fry. Now, they're twins, and they have unique abilities between them. So Jacob is more a bare knuckles brawler who uses guns for his ranged attacks. Evie, on the other hand, is better with knives, and she's very stealthy. In fact, when she's cloaked out, when you put points in and everything like that, you're almost invisible until people get right up on you. And you can switch characters on the fly in the game anytime you want, with the exception of certain missions are going to require you to play as either one or the other. The rest of the missions are open-ended. You could play as either character, and of course when you're running around in the open world, you can play as either character. Now, Jacob fits my combat style a little bit better when I'm playing the game because I go in and I kill everything. But Evie also works really well in doing that, only she does it as an assassin, and you stealthily take out more people than you can with Jacob. Now, when you're clearing the map, how you open up everything is basically you're going to have all these different territories to go in and claim and make your own. You're going to basically start a gang up, and by taking over the other enemy gang territories, they're going to become your own. And this is actually the first mission where I'm actually doing this. Now, which actual area that I selected isn't necessarily which one you have to go to. You can go to any of them, but this was just the first one because I think it was the closest at the time. And like previous Assassin's Creed, as you go through and you play these different missions and unlock these areas, you're actually going to, get upgrades in your stats by putting points in and unlocking things, as well as getting different weapons and outfits and things like that to wear. And the first mission you actually do in this, you get introduced to the Burl gang leader. And once you take him down, you get a really cool tool, which is like a grappling hook. And it really makes traveling around the city fun and quick. In fact, you may not even want to ride in a carriage because it's just sometimes easier just to grapple to things and cut across the city than it is to take the streets. But overall, I really like the combat in this. In fact, my son Connor really enjoyed the combat. He really liked the melee and the boxing style combat they did with Jacob in this. And he had a lot of fun with it when he played it. But because there was no co-op, he got bored with it and never finished the game, like I said. My other two sons honestly only have a few hours into it because they wanted to play it co-op, not as a single player. So again, I'm really hoping that they go back and introduce or reintroduce co-op into the next Assassin's Creed, but I don't know for sure if they're going to do that or not. I think it's a missed opportunity if they don't. But what do I know? I'm just a consumer, right? Now, I will say that Evie had a lot better looking costumes in the game than Jacob. Jacob is pretty much depicted as a street thug. He's usually in rags, not too many really nice costumes that you're used to wearing in like Unity. Unity, you had all these really nice outfits with a couple of raggy looking ones. In Syndicate, Jacob's outfits are mostly raggy and almost like homeless looking, and he has a few good looking ones, but sometimes the stats just don't really match the weapons that he's designed to use, which is a little odd. Now, there is reputation that you earn with different people in this game, and as you can see right here, as I unlock, or as my reputation increases, I unlock different weapons and outfits and things like that. But that's another change. It's kind of reverted back. I don't think people really like the way Unity did individual pieces with different stats, which I really enjoyed, because then you could design your character the way you wanted to. You can make him a tank, you can make him very stealthy, or you could make him, a ranged character or a melee character. However you wanted to make him, you could enhance those abilities. In this one you can as well, but not nearly as much as you could in Unity, where you could customize your character to better suit a party of 4 to play co-op. I mean, that's basically, I think, why they did it. But it worked really well, and I wish they'd have kind of kept that system in because I really like the customizable options they offered you. Now, the other missions that you're going to have in this game to actually unlock zones and stuff like that are basically freeing kids. Child labor was a pretty big thing back in that time period, and in this game you get to go in and help the children and basically punish the criminals that are using them as child labor. And in doing so, you open up your territory just like you do with doing the gang fights. Now, like previous Assassin's Creed games, if you buy, you know, all the bonus content, the DLC, things like that, you get a lot of different side quests to do, a lot of different missions, but there is other content to do in the game as well without buying all that. And one of them is being able to come in here to the fight clubs. And that's exactly what it is. You're coming in here and you're brawling because Jacob is a brawler. That's who you're going to fight with. And it's pretty cool, not to mention the fact that it teaches you how to do combos. And the first rule of Fight Club is there's no Fight Club. Now, it starts off as you're just fighting like one person, and then it increases until you get the final round, which is where you fight all these guys at one time. But it's fun, and it brings in something different to the game. And again, you can earn rep with this guy to unlock different items and weapons in the game. And you're going to want to do that because some of the best items in the game come from unlocking these side activities. Now, as I said earlier, London is huge. I mean, it's almost built to scale for that time period. It's really cool to run around in. It looks amazing. And if you like just running around and exploring in other Assassin's Creed games, you're going to love it here. Because it's not just an open area or, you know, small cities. It's a huge city. And it's just cool to run around and just explore and see everything. I love doing that in these games. And this one will not disappoint at all. And like I said earlier, once you get the grapple hook, it's so easy to use, although you will definitely defy physics using it because you'll actually grapple up as well as down. And it makes it really easy to get around the town. Although it would have been cool if you could only use it going downwards, which would have made more sense. There's also some really cool race events where you get to race in the horse and carriage. And that's pretty cool. I did those for a while too until I got my rep up. But once I did that and I got all the unlocks, I didn't really bother with it after that. There was kind of no point in repeating it. It was just too repetitive. But it was fun and interesting at first. Now, the city just seems so alive. I mean, the river, I love the river because you get to run across here and jump across crates and onto ships. And it's so large. Like, they didn't make a small river. They made a huge river. I mean, this place is gigantic. And it's a lot of fun just checking it all out. Now, if you purchase the Gold Edition, which goes on sale for about $30, $35, regular price I think is still $70 on Ubisoft. You might be able to find it cheaper other places. But if you actually purchase that edition of the game, you'll get all the bonus content with the game. And you'll get missions like this one I'm swimming to right now, where you get to go into the future to World War I and complete a series of missions for Winston Churchill. For the British Empire. Alright, so let's take a look at this mission. And during these ones, you're actually going to have to play as Evie. You don't really get a choice, but she's awesome to play. And her stealth abilities really make doing missions a lot of fun and really easy. Plus her attitude's pretty spunky, and that's pretty fun and entertaining to play and watch her interact with different people, especially Jacob. They definitely have their sibling spats. In fact, I almost think that Ubisoft made her the better character overall. She plays the assassin's part very, very well. And maybe that's because she actually studied with her father to become an assassin. That's what she really wanted to do. Where Jacob, on the other hand, was kind of always the more rebellious twin. He just kind of wanted to do his own thing his own way. And she wants to follow the creed and be, you know, true to the assassin's beliefs. And here we get to see a young Winston Churchill.
That's not very polite.
Even in these trying times, we must never forget the laws of common courtesy. Arms down. We appear to have been following the same trail, Miss Fry.
I got here first.
Indeed, you are to be commended. I fear, however, that we have not wholly rooted out the evil in this vicinity.
There's another radio.
Accompany me, if you would be so kind.
Of course she will, even though she doesn't really know who he is.
That second device must be found, or new waves of Zeppelins will soon blanket the heavens.
Short on soldiers, are we?
If you could put your considerable talents to good use at Tower Bridge, you would have the thanks of a brave but beleaguered nation.
I would settle for the right to vote.
Now, it's a pretty interesting comment because this is a time period that Evie doesn't even know what it is yet. Like, she has no idea what year she's in. You know, she doesn't know whether or not women have the right to vote yet. But Ubisoft threw it in there because in 1916, women didn't have the right to vote. In fact, in 1916, no one voted because the government was suspended in Europe, or at least in England. It wasn't until 1918 that people got the right to vote again, and that was only men and women over the age of 30 that owned property. And then in 1928, I believe, women first got the right to vote in Europe. But she had no way of knowing that. Kind of interesting that Ubisoft would throw that in there as a history lesson. And you'll find out why here in a few minutes. Now, I really like these side missions because you got to do things that you normally couldn't do in the game, like shoot anti-air rounds at aircraft and blimps. It's something you don't do every day, not even in Assassin's Creed. Maybe Battlefield. At least not yet. I mean, all the games up to this point have led you to believe that the next Assassin's Creed game is going to be gearing towards the Wild West. But that didn't really happen. They ended up doing Syndicate, which leaped forward, and then now they're going to go back in time to Egypt, which could be a whole reboot of the series. We don't know yet. Which is strange because, like I said, all of the files that you found in some of the other games always kind of led up to the new games that were coming up. Like you got hints of you know, Black Flag before it even came out. You got hints of you know, the Wild West, Billy the Kid, and things like that, of all things to come. Hell, they even hinted towards Watch Dogs before it came out, which was really cool too. If you ever take the time to actually read the stuff you find in the game, it hints not only towards other Assassin's Creed games to come, but also other games. I mean, that was pretty cool with Watch Dogs. I mean, who would have thought that, right? But at last, it looks like there's not going to be a Wild West Assassin's Creed, at least not yet. Maybe in the future still, but it'll be a long time coming if they're going to Egypt next. And it depends on whether or not they're taking 2-year breaks now in between games, which they should, because they need to get it right. Unity was a mess upon release. Syndicate had its issues as well, but not nearly as bad. It was pretty playable, but some people had some issues. But I think that's going to happen with almost any launch. Syndicate was pretty decent. Not nearly as good as Rogue, though. Rogue, they took the time to polish, and it was released pretty good condition. It worked pretty well. A hell of a lot better than Black Flag.
A remarkably armed boat deserves a share of recognition.
One of my experimental projects when I was Lord of the Admiralty. I haven't always been a man of shadows.
And I suppose this victory will thrust you back into the limelight.
We may have struck a blow against the enemy, but London is still riddled with German agents. Currently, there's a new group, unlike anything I've seen before. Theirs is a fanatical, almost religious fervor.
And you believe I'm the woman to flush them out?
Indeed. I dare not approach Mr. Asquith without firmer evidence, but I believe they pose an immediate threat. If you concede to this, I give you my word that once I've battled my way back into Parliament, I shall see if something can't be done about your request.
And there we have it. Thanks to Evie Fry, women got the right to vote in England.
As you are aware, a vote can be far more lethal than a bullet or a blade.
I really like these games, how they basically cover true historical events and places, but throw in their own story to intertwine with it. Alright, so like I said earlier, you're going to get a lot of weapons and clothing items to wear in this game. There's a lot of things to unlock, whether it's through side missions, DLC content, or just the story itself. You're going to earn these different items that you can wear and put on. Now, they're all going to give you some stats, but they're pretty much the same type of stats. They're just going to increase as you go along and level up. There's not nearly the customization options that you had in Unity, but you still get some options that are more attuned to previous Assassin's Creed games like Black Flag and before that. But you're not going to really have the customization options that say, hey, I want to be a tank. Now, there are costumes that have different abilities and effects, like some of them might give you more stats to using the cane sword versus, one might be brass knuckles. So they're obviously going to be different play styles, and depending on what weapon you have. Maybe your cane sword is a really high level item and your brass knuckles are pretty low, and so you're going to do a lot more damage using the cane sword, so you're going to want to switch that outfit. Now, that's really the only negative part about it, because now you're kind of forced to use that outfit even if you don't like it because of the stats. It would be well, it wouldn't be too smart to use a different weapon with it because you're not going to get the buff. But even so, you had the similar problem in Unity. You had different style clothing, and those styles might buff your health or might buff ranged or melee abilities. And likewise, you wouldn't want to use those just because you liked them unless you were going to actually play that type of play style. Now, how could they improve that? Well, they could just do basic stats that are going to increase, melee combat or increase weaponized combat, stuff like that, that might make more sense than specifically going towards a type of weapon where then you're forced to use only that type of weapon. Now, another thing with skill points, as you level up here, you're going to have actual skills, kind of like an RPG, where you're going to actually put things in that are going to increase your abilities as well as unlock different aspects. Now, some of them are specific only to Evie, and other ones are specific to Jacob. So depending on which person's skill line you're actually looking at, you're going to have different points available to that character and that character specifically, and then the majority of them are going to work for both characters across the board. Overall, I think this game is pretty amazing. I wish it had co-op, but that's another story. If you've never played it, definitely pick it up and play it. It's an amazing game. I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.